Okay, so we are going to do a conference realignment draft using AI. This is the program I made basically to simulate what a conference realignment draft should look like. And just, I guess, as a preamble here, well, what does that mean? It means more than anything else that you have 10 conference commissioners, each trying to draft the best league that they can. However, they don't all think the same way. Just like with people, you're going to have randomly assigned personalities where some are going to prefer rivalry games, some are going to prefer more markets, some want an academic conference, some want an athletic conference. It really just depends on luck of the draw. So each time we run this, it's different. Technically, there's got to be a finite number of possibilities in there somehow or somewhere, but it's a lot. So I don't really know what's going to happen. Up top, I'm setting my parameters. I like to use 10 leagues, 4 power leagues, and 1 what I define as a mid-major league. So what I mean by that is like the American Conference, at least back a couple years ago, a year ago, where you have your 4 power conferences, and there's like a league that's almost as good but not quite, and then you have your G5, which are or what we're defining as the G5, which in this case are the weaker conferences. I like to limit Conference E to 12 teams. Every other league can go up to 16. The power leagues are all 16 teams. I think 16 is better than 20. I just do. So I limit Conference E to 12 teams, and I'm going to hide the suggestions to make it more fun. There's a commentator chat feature that I'm still working on, so you're not going to see that during this, where the college game day hosts talk about who should be picked next and stuff. It's a lot of fun, but we're going to run a draft just to see kind of how this would look because I got a request for it. So we'll initialize and start the draft. So you will notice that Conference A, impish. That doesn't mean Conference A is actually an impish commissioner, whatever that even really means in this context. It's just a shorthand I use to refer to the different personalities. Took it from the Pokemon natures. So who's the first overall pick? I've seen a lot of different options here. There's probably about 4 that are possible. I'd say Notre Dame's the most common. Today we get Texas. So it's not a bad choice. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? So Texas is off the board first. Conference B, who is naughty, is going to go next. They'll take Notre Dame. Conference C, who's got the lonely variable on, takes USC. And Conference D, which is hardy, takes Michigan. And that's a fairly typical first round. Usually looks something like that. So, all right, moving on to round 2, Conference A again. I don't do the snake style. I do a round robin style. I don't find it makes a difference, and I don't think it's really realistic for the power leagues to be perfectly balanced either. But Conference A will take Oklahoma, Red River Shootout to build around. And Conference B, Notre Dame's lost their primary rival in USC already. That's who I was thinking they go with. Ohio State just makes the most sense here. So Conference C, UCLA often goes around here. Alabama, so definitely a coast-to-coast kind of conference here. In Conference D, they've lost Michigan, they've lost Ohio State and Notre Dame. So they just go with Florida. That Michigan-Florida rivalry seemed to exist for a couple years there. All right, so round 3, Texas A&M. Wow. There is logic in here to prevent a conference from being all Texas teams. It doesn't seem like something that would happen. So Texas A&M here is probably less valued by Conference A than it is by at least one other conference here, but it's the one that goes here. Conference B, Wisconsin. This is very early for Wisconsin, but maybe they like having a Midwestern league. It could be that could be built into their parameters. They like having one region, their personality rather. Conference C, UCLA again makes sense. First, it seems like, well, why would you take UCLA? They haven't won all that much. Well, conference realignment is about athletics, academics, and market value. Athletics, does play a large role. UCLA has been a little disappointing on that front, but they're also in Los Angeles, and they're also a fantastic academic school. And then Conference D, North Carolina. This is kind of a weird draft so far. By weird, I don't mean like couldn't happen. I think this is all, to some extent here, reasonable. I think I would go outside of the region if I were Conference B, but that's my personality. It's just, not the typical, I guess, to the extent there is something typical draft here. Florida State goes next to Conference A. Conference B goes with Georgia. Conference C with Tennessee. They like rivalries, it looks like. And then Conference D, Penn State. Yeah, so making sense here as we head into round 5. This would be a little early for Miami, I think. Yeah, they go LSU in this case. Get that kind of pseudo-rivalry with Texas A&M. Conference B, Georgia Tech. Wow. That's super early for Tech. As well as Wisconsin. So there's something here. It's a little bit hard to, I guess, put our finger on with what they prefer. I mean, it could be academics, and the rivalry with Georgia just puts Georgia Tech over the top. Conference C, they take Iowa here. Iowa tends to go a little bit early for the popularity, but good academics, good athletics. And then Conference D, Oregon. I had Oregon go in like the 3rd round recently, and was that never happens. They're usually like a 6th round school, but look for Washington next round. One goes, and then the other one tends to go. Okay, so we are now in the 6th round, Conference A, Auburn. Oof, it's tough seeing them split up from Alabama, but that's what they wanted. It's kind of a southeast, Texas to Florida-based conference so far. It makes sense. Conference B, Clemson's who I want here from them. Michigan State, wow. I it's got to shrug and move on. At Conference B is drafting like a drunk conference commissioner here, like Jim Swafford. Conference C, Nebraska. It's interesting that Iowa usually goes before Nebraska. You would really think it'd be the opposite. And then Conference D, TCU. A little early for TCU too. This is a strange draft though. Again, I'm not seeing Clemson yet. What's happening? It's Conference A. Can you correct that? Yes. It can only go on for so long. That's a low setting for Clemson. They usually go a little bit before that. Conference B, Northwestern. Yeah, I think this is an academically focused commissioner here. Conference C. This looks like Colorado to me. Yeah. So Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, it seems to almost go on a run. Where like the rivalry settings for this, for whatever reason, seem to like cascade into getting that pair. Utah often goes after Colorado here too. Conference D, Utah. I didn't mean it right then. I meant for Conference C, but it was also late in the draft for Utah. They usually go a little before that. Okay. So, Conference A is going to kick off round 8. Mississippi. Yeah, works for what they're doing. Wonder if Arkansas is next round for them unless they go sooner. Conference B here, they've just gotten Northwestern. Now they go Miami, Florida. And, kind of piecing together a southeastern wing of the conference along with their Midwestern. And Conference C, can't take Utah. They go with Maryland here. And just must be the best overall market pick. A little bit out of their strike zone. And they're kind of a coast-to-coast conference here. And in Conference D, Penn State and Maryland often go together. Conference D takes Missouri. Missouri often goes with Kansas. Again, like rivalries, it makes sense. Most conference commissioners want to have rivalry games if all else is pretty much equal. Some of them want rivalry games in general. So we'll kind of just see how that one plays out. Mississippi's off the board here. They don't have a Kentucky team yet. Or Arkansas. It's going to be one of those two schools, I think. NC State will make a liar out of me. It was I think they call it the Textile Bowl with Clemson. I don't think it's a huge rivalry game, but I guess it counts. Conference B, they just got Miami. Now they go Minnesota, getting that Paul Bunyan Axe game. Conference C just got Maryland. Now they take Virginia. And then Conference D has Missouri. Here's Washington. Washington goes super late for them. We're talking like usually anywhere from a 4th to 6th round. That's the latest I've ever seen Washington go, like bar none. But okay, we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is round 10 now, out of 16 for the power conferences. Arkansas finally gets off the board. Conference B takes Illinois. Conference C, they just got Virginia. Are they going to go Tech here? They do. And we just got Washington, Conference D. Now we go Boise State. Interesting. Okay. So round 11. What was it? School I was talking about for Conference A. Besides Arkansas. Gosh, I don't remember now. But another rivalry game seems to be like available for them, I think. Could be Kentucky. Oklahoma State, Bedlam's protected. Stanford, so that's a Notre Dame connection, I guess. Notre Dame can't play USC at the end of the year. They want to at least get Stanford. Conference C takes Duke. And they didn't have North Carolina, so they're just kind of trying to be mid-Atlantic a little bit. And then Conference D, Kansas. Yeah, they want to play with Missouri. Okay, I think this is round 12. South Carolina finally joins Clemson. Cal joins Stanford. Syracuse jumps in pretty much out of nowhere. Getting a northeastern run. Indiana joining here. So a lot of schools are now getting a little bit nervous. Round 13. And I guess Boise State is the most recent huge surprise there. That's super early for them. They tend to be like borderline even making it. Kentucky finally joins in for Conference A. I really like this conference. It's very close to like a slightly changed SEC. Cincinnati. I guess with Ohio State, they decide to corner the Midwest there. Boston College and Syracuse. And then Arizona State. Usually Arizona follows not too long after. All right, round 14. I'm getting nervous. Vanderbilt comes with Kentucky. Oregon State. Ooh, that's random. Connecticut. And Conference D, Iowa State. I guess you like that. I was gonna say Iowa matchup, but wow, no, these are some interesting picks today. The conference commissioners met for happy hour ahead of time. Round 15. Mississippi State. They don't always even make it. But it's nice to see the Egg Bowl protected. Tulane. It used to be Tulane would be like drafted super early. They've been adjusted somewhat, and that makes a lot more sense. You can make the argument though, why would Tulane be in a power league at all? But I mean, if you think about starting from scratch, you have a chance to get New Orleans, a good academic school if you're a conference interested in that. It does make a lot more sense. Conference C takes Arizona. Conference D is fuming. They take Rutgers. Get that New York City market. And, oh boy, we are here in round 16. I'm sweating bullets. Pitt hasn't been picked. They're not always picked. Let's see what happens here. Pitt goes off the board right after I bring them up. And, you're just happy to beat the dance if you're Pitt, because this is not a conference you're particularly interested in being in. Purdue goes. They don't always go. Forest. Very, very interesting. Wake almost never makes it. And then Conference D, Mr. Irrelevant is San Diego State. This is one of the more interesting power conference drafts I've ever seen. It doesn't usually, these are not usually our leagues. They are made up of different teams in this, I'd say pretty often. But BYU wasn't picked. Houston wasn't picked. I don't think I saw Baylor or Texas Tech come off the board. And just a very interesting set of teams this time around. So let's go over who the leagues are. We got Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Florida State, LSU, Auburn, Clemson, Mississippi, NC State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, South Carolina, and you're like, wow, what a good geographical league. Kentucky, Vanderbilt, this is great. They're all Southeastern teams. Mississippi State, Pitt. What? But it does make, basically, I have a feeling that Pitt was just the best overall school available, even accounting for geography. Probably felt strongly that they had enough Texas schools without Houston, Baylor, whoever. So, Pitt is in this Southeastern League. Wonder if they'll be open to a trade. Conference B takes Notre Dame, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Michigan State, Northwestern, Miami, Minnesota, Illinois, Stanford, Cal, Cincinnati, Oregon State, Tulane, Purdue. Wanted to have a little bit of a West Coast thing, I guess. Stanford, Cal, and Oregon State. Oregon State, again, kind of a dark horse, but we like that. Conference C, USC, Alabama, UCLA, Tennessee, Iowa, Nebraska, Colorado, Maryland, Virginia, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, Boston College, Connecticut, Arizona, Wake Forest. It's like, can we trade Wake Forest and Pitt? This looks like a great league for Pitt. Alright, whatever. And then finally, Conference D. Michigan, Florida, North Carolina, Penn State, Oregon, TCU, Utah, Missouri, Washington, Boise State, Kansas, Indiana, Arizona State, Iowa State, Rutgers, San Diego State. Is that this kind of last rivalry game here, or West Coast game here? Oregon, Washington State, Boise State, Arizona State, San Diego State. You just kind of have a West Coast presence in this league. So, all right. And again, it's not necessarily saying these are the 4 best leagues that could possibly happen in terms of rivalry. This is not what we're aiming to simulate here. We're aiming to simulate what's it look like if you have 4 conference commissioners trying to make the strongest leagues they can in the draft setting. And again, depends on what your definition of strongest or best is. Commissioners have different ideas, and so this is the draft we get. It's a very interesting one. It's much more scattershot than we usually get. They tend to make, I guess, I was going to say more sense, but really, everything kind of does. Conference A is completely Southeastern, and at the end, they add just the best available school, which is Pitt. Conference E gets to draft 12 times in a row, because they are the mid-major here. So let's see who they think is the best team that didn't get picked. SMU, Baylor, Texas Tech, Central Florida, BYU, Kansas State, Army, Navy, Air Force. Yeah, oftentimes see those guys together. South Florida, West Virginia, and finally Colorado State. So you notice no Houston, no Louisville. It's interesting. Houston, I think, wasn't picked because at that point they had so many Texas teams. They're like, well, we only need 3. I only need 4. This is a fun league, though. Get the War on I-4. You get the Service Academies, West Virginia, 3 Texas schools. BYU, Kansas State. I like this league a lot. But now we're picking the G5. So these 5 schools were picked just like we did with the first 4. Houston, Louisville. That was pretty predictable, wasn't it? James Madison, Rice, Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio tends to go earlier than any other MAC school. I think academics. Memphis, Massachusetts, App State, Tulsa, UAB, Louisiana, UNLV, Coastal Carolina, San Antonio, East Carolina. A couple of fun leagues here so far. Washington State. Man, they fell. Charlotte, Marshall, Buffalo, Temple, Toledo, Fresno State, Old Dominion, Nevada, New Mexico, Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, Liberty, Louisiana Tech, Wyoming, Western Michigan, UTEP. Let's see if they go with New Mexico State. Georgia Southern. Nope. New Mexico State is in Conference I. North Texas, Southern Mississippi, Troy, Middle Tennessee, Utah State, Hawaii, Western Kentucky, Ball State, Ohio, Florida International, Central Michigan. We tend to go on like a MAC run right about here. Eastern Michigan, Kent State, South Alabama, Jacksonville State, Louisiana Monroe, and now we are down to 4 schools technically. We'll make it 5. Bowling Green, Akron, Texas State, Sam Houston, and now I gotta save that. And just for the sake of argument, here's San Jose State. So let's go over our G5 real fast. Conference F, Houston, Memphis, Louisiana, Washington State, Toledo, Florida Atlantic, Western Michigan, Southern Miss, Western Kentucky, Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green. I like this league, like a lot. Conference G, Massachusetts, UNLV, Charlotte, Fresno State, Northern Illinois, UTEP, Troy, Ball State, Kent State, Akron, James Madison, App State, Coastal Carolina, Marshall, Old Dominion, Liberty, Georgia Southern, Middle Tennessee, Ohio, South Alabama, Texas State. Conference I, Rice, Tulsa, San Antonio, Buffalo, Nevada, Louisiana Tech, New Mexico State, Utah State, Florida International, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston. I really like this league. I just feel bad for Buffalo. Then Conference J, Miami, Alabama, Birmingham, East Carolina, Temple, New Mexico, Wyoming, North Texas, Hawaii, Central Michigan, Louisiana Monroe, San Jose State. All right, so that's it. That's getting everyone into a league and how it would look if we had 10 AI conference commissioners in this scenario in particular, drafting 10 AI leagues. So that's what it looks like. Hope your team was picked. Hope you enjoyed the simulation. Again, if I ran this again, it would look completely different. So, that's just how it looked this time.